Advertising can be very powerful, even though it's not. You cannot really see what the point of the advertisement is.
It actually helps you to actually connect with people, persuade, manipulate in terms of perception.
Most of them paints a very idealistic picture. Family of 4, good-looking wife, good-looking husband, loves to shop, and so forth. And I think makes us desire that idealistic kind of lifestyle that they're trying to paint, and makes us feel that we need certain things in our life, like certain products they're promoting to be, living a normal life.
If people do fall into the, wow, if I buy that, I'm going to be cool, well, then that's just, people caught up with materialism, which is what a lot of people are already caught up with or without advertising.
Advertising can actually sell something that you don't need as well. It makes you buy, makes you spend unnecessarily. But so at the end of it all, who do you benefit? Actually, you benefit more the company.
It looks like most advertising billboards is about asking you to buy. Every day in our life, we are being asked to buy something without questioning whether we really need these things or not. And why do we buy? Because we want to feel cool, or we want to feel like, normal with other people.
You are the master of your environment. Ultimately, all these things will tell you everything they need to tell you because it's their job. Ultimately, it's your choice. And I think that kind of wisdom is what's required in our market, is because people get too caught up with the greed and the materialism without being able to take a step back and say, do I really need this?
I'm pretty sure advertising industry is here to stay, because it is a useful tool for businesses to continuously drill in our heads that we need to buy.
In economics, there's supply and demand, and I think even psychologically, there's the same thing. If you talk about something that nobody wants to hear, it doesn't matter how much you say, nobody's going to listen to you. Truth be told, it is an industry that has a demand. And for as long as the demand is there is really no reason for advertising to die. Our job is to be able to simplify messages in a very creative and interesting way, to make products and services and what their information or their special, unique selling point be known to the public.
Advertising is just a form of communication.
I tend to find that advertising is becoming more and more intrusive, and it becomes almost quite annoying, the way that it invades our life.
I think it's become a very cheap and convenient way for people to, use buntings or use a billboard to promote what they want to promote.
Before we get to remember someday, we need to be aware of that. We need to perceive that.
In our modern life now, especially with smartphone and social media, having all of these updates coming all of the time, we have an urge to check everything. We end up becoming very distracted, and it's very hard to focus and hard to relax.
Billboards now already, you can see billboards changing interface, right? Different, like 3 advertisements in one billboard. And you already now have digital billboards. So I think technology is making it even easier to advertise these days.
TV commercials is a very powerful form of media. Why is it so? Because TV is audio visual. You both hear and see, and people love images, right? So these are various forms that you can reach out to people. And who do you reach out to? It all depends on who you want to reach out to.
It has changed from one-way communication in the past, where you see advertisements, billboards, and TV commercials where they tell you things. Whereas today, in the information age, the digital space has allowed the consumer to respond, and now there's a two-way engagement of advertising.
Humans can learn, And with time, we call it conditioning, where you repeatedly place something in front of you. You learn that and you will keep it in your mind.
Humans are programmed to be able to see things when they're not really there.
Advertising helps bring us to a fantasy world. So it gives you a perception subconsciously that you're better than someone else, or you're of a higher status when you're able to afford that brand.
Feelings is one of the most powerful memory or recall that we human beings have. And feeling is the easiest way to lock in a certain experience for the consumer, because we don't have much time. We have 30 seconds to tell you everything we're about, in 30 seconds.
Mostly they will target your cognition and your emotion, because these two will persuade your behavior, will affect your behavior.
It's looking at, from a macro perspective, how the way we live our lives. You can tell subtly that every part of how we lead our lives is determined by what brands we're exposed to, and that's all about how advertising has reached into our subconscious level. And to a certain extent, sometimes I fall into this trap where I really want to know what brands are out there and what are they selling as well, because you see everyone conforming to it, and if you don't conform with it, you feel kind of left out.
When others do that, we feel obliged to do something. We conform to that. Or maybe when you see something too often, you learn, so you just do it without knowing why you do it sometimes.
Media gives you a very simple message: have, do, be. Have something, have this thing, do the activity with this thing, and you will be someone. But it's not necessarily true, is it? And I think we know that, yet we still fall for it.
This is an interesting concept of the physical environment and also the mental environment. And the impact of advertising on the physical environment is actually fairly limited compared to our other kind of activities. The only impact on the physical environment was things like the new billboards coming up, but the impact on the mental environment is actually far greater.
From the 70s up to now, like the last 4 decades, and I've seen an amazing transformation of more brands out there and more advertising out there.
About the last 10, 20 years, there's been a lot more of these huge giant billboards and advertising coming up over spaces which in the past were kind of public spaces.
But then again, there's also a lot of people who are now moving digital media for advertising. You would say, compared to print media, digital media is definitely greener, more sustainable, because you don't really utilize much resources apart from energy, of course.
It's no longer just about telling people that your product's the best. It's actually propagating a belief that people actually agree that your product is the best. So there's a bit more sophistication today, because I think people are smarter, people are more exposed, and people won't just believe everything they read and see anymore.
For me, environment is about people. Yes, there's the physical environment and social environment, but a lot of how the environment is managed and how it changes is determined by humans.
How we react to something is actually the product of the environment. We learn from the environment. So how we behave, how we think, how we feel, it might be product of the environment.
You look everywhere, you probably see more billboards in certain areas than trees. As the needs for advertising grows, because business see as a necessity, you see a lot of usage of resources as well. Because just focusing on print advertising, for instance, you have your billboards, you have your roadside buntings and so forth. The materials used to print, plastics and colored ink and all that, do have some impact on the environment. After you're done with using the billboard and you remove the materials, where does it end up? Can it be reused again?
What happens to a billboard after is something I think the industry needs to look into.
A billboard powered by amazing voltage of lights. I do go like how much energy a billboard uses a month or a day just so that it gets brightly lit. what kind of culture are we building from this? A very disposable culture, if you look at it. There's nothing sustainable about how we live now. And I think in general, most Malaysians think it's okay. You know, they're getting used to it.
The purpose of advertising is to influence the way we think and then influence the way we behave. The question is whether it's positive influence or negative influence.
It's extremely powerful in influencing society's beliefs, society's trends. It needs to be used properly and used ethically.
We're turning into societies that think of things as being very disposable, very easily to obtain. And I think that's one of the root causes why we're eating up the resources of the planet so fast.
I think Malaysia in general needs to start looking into what we do after we use things.